So first of all, hello everyone. As you know, this is a new video, and we are gonna start with a new series, which is podcast series. And I'm really excited about this video because we have someone very special, someone with which I bond a lot, and I have learned a lot. So I think this video is gonna be one of the most informative, one of the most educational video of this channel. So I'm really excited. So I would like you to meet Stephen. Stephen Bhai. Bhai is basically a brother in Hindi. So Stephen Bhai, hello and welcome to this video. How do you feel?
Hey, great, Jay. Thanks, and like extremely kind words, but thanks for having me here. Yeah, even I'm too excited. Let's see where this goes. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be like an informal chat that turns out to be maybe something informative to a lot of people. So let's see.
Uh, True. I think as you said, that's what our motto is, just to keep it an informal chat, which is educational and beneficial to a lot of you guys as well. So my first, I would like you to introduce yourself to like all our audience and whatever things you have achieved and done so far.
So okay, so I did my BTech in CSE itself. I did it from a tier 3 college.
Recording in
It's
progress.
SRM and from Chennai. So I spent 4 years there. And during my BTech, I didn't really do a lot of stuff. Okay, I was more of the, average, above average kind of kid. And from there, I luckily got campus placed into Verizon, which is again a US based telecom company. I worked 2 years there, and I was in and out of projects at the start, DAVNet projects, Spring Boot projects, and basically I was mapped to projects based on what my need was. Then finally, I worked majorly on a data visualization project, which was again a React Spring Boot based project. And then after that, I spent like 2 years, 3 months or 4 months there. From there, I went to Property Loop,
Okay.
which is again a UK based startup where I met Jay. And essentially, there also, I have spent a similar time. And yeah, I've been working with similar technologies that I was mapped to previously as well. The main project that I was mapped to in Verizon, we're using React, Node, and again JavaScript, TypeScript based frameworks, and mostly dealt with relational databases. But yeah, I have a little bit knowledge on non-relational as well, NoSQL as well, with our side projects. That's it. Those experiences itself, because that would actually give better examples and like give better, what do you say? Um,
It will basically
Insights.
it's true. It
Yeah.
will. Got it. I think it's insane. So so like you started this out, right? You had, so did you always wanted to become a software engineer, or it happened because that was the trend? Like, how was it?
So from my childhood, actually, for me it was a little bit different. From my childhood, I used to get CS stuff very easily, and it was kind of interesting for me as well. Like the logical aspect of it, that itself. So even in mathematics as well, it was pretty similar. I mean, the tough concepts used to be tough always, right? Mathematics would go a little tough, but CS was something that was not that, like, I felt that was not that tough. Okay, it used to be like a simple rules of logical sets of rules and regulations, and that's how it works. In fact, I actually did my first C language program from we have these NIIT, I think,
Okay.
NIIT, yeah, franchises where they have these programs. So I did my first C language course on in NIT in grade 5, and then that was like a touch base. So that kind of pushed me towards it. I knew that if I'm gonna go in the future, I'm gonna do something here. But the rest of the years were not like I constantly developed on that. I was more into, using the internet, social media,
Yeah.
getting exposed to all of that. And then wasn't till I actually had to choose a college where I started aligning my interests back again.
Correct. So
Yeah.
I think, I would like to comment on that. I think nowadays, a lot of my friends and a lot of Gen Zs, like the new generations, right? They kind of like they want to do software engineering, or they want to become a software engineer because that's the trend. That's the most hot topic right now, right? You see people earning a lot of money being a software engineer, even though they are not very passionate about it. They just want to do it because of the money and the like hotness of the topic aspect, right? So, how, what should be the approach? How should people know that this is for me?
It happens over a series of decisions. Like I've seen people align their interests as well.
Okay.
Okay, like starting from a different background, and like they just hear, okay, tech has got a lot of money, we need to align ourselves to tech, just even stay relevant later. And lately we've been seeing even AI disrupting so many jobs in other fields as well,
True,
and
true.
it's gonna keep increasing, right? It's
Yeah.
gonna keep, now it's content writing, next it's gonna be designing.
Yeah.
There's gonna be some tool out there that's gonna disrupt a lot of jobs, and that's the reason people are coming to tech a lot. I would say it's a twofold thing. Like you align yourself, you have to have an initial push,
Correct.
obviously,
Yes.
because of where you're coming from and where you want to go,
Okay.
because that's always there. Like even for me itself, even though I used to get it easy, it wasn't much. It wasn't that I knew that I had to go here, but it wasn't that do I want to go here, or do I have the feeling that, because I want to stay here. Because during my childhood, I actually had dreams of being an astronaut, right? So
That's cool.
that is completely, yeah, that's completely different from where I am right now. But it's basically you push yourself towards it, and later on, if you feel that, yeah, you get it,
Yeah.
and this thing is something that you can align yourself to, and you can see yourself make a career out of it, and mainly ensure that you can, in a few years later, where you want to be your own boss,
Mm.
you can make money out of this, being a sole person, like not associated. Like people become contractors and freelancers later.
True.
So if you can, like establish yourself like that later,
Mhm.
because then it's completely out of your interest, out of, it's completely based on you, on how many hours you want to take, and that's going to push field you're in. So you need to ensure that, you know that's something that you might be able to do in the future, because then the sole control is going to be over you. So if you're not really interested, then you won't be able to make much money in the future, right?
True.
So yeah, so jobs are a different aspect, but
True.
I feel that you should deliberately, insert yourself mentally into that situation where you are your own boss, and you know everything of this field of, or the or the specific technologies that you
Mhm.
are a master of. And now you see, uh, does that interest you? Does that drive you to, like take on new projects, solve new problems, and does that thing interest you still? Right. I
So
think that's the main question, that you would want to put yourself there and see. And that again, it has to come. You'll have to first push yourself a little, because it'll not come. It'll not come easy, because CS does come hard for a lot of
true.
people.
True.
Yeah.
So
So that push is required.
I think
Yeah.
then, like what I've concluded from your conversation is like the initial push you definitely require. It is not necessary that you would love computer science from like beginning. You could come into the career and you could start loving, eventually. That's also a thing.
Yeah.
But trying out various stuff, that's kind of very important. Amazing. I think that was a
Yeah.
very valuable feedback. Uh, After this, like, my next, I'm just going on to the from phases, right? So we start with this question that should I go for computer science, and then the first question is, if I want to, what's the way? Like most of us have seen our the people which we inspire, they practicing competitive programming and going to Google, Facebook. So I mean, what is the best approach to become software engineer basically? How can someone become software engineer?
The other aspect, as I said, is what is gonna coding is not gonna excite you more as its applications are.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
because you're gonna build something out of it, and what you're gonna build is what's gonna probably excite you, right? So the applications of computer science, which are extremely numerous based on, like different fields that we have: data science, AI, ML, and, like product based engineering, normal web and app development. So there are numerous applications that way. And again, so if you really want to, do something in computer science, and the first step would be to actually see what application excites you the most, because some have a specific niche that they love to work with data and love the way, basically they can utilize huge chunks of data and, create meaningful insights out of it. Or they love using Alexa and Google Home, and the applications, are endless, like that way. So speech recognition AI models, or, like ML models, they love how Teslas work. Or something like using a simple app on your phone, they love how they, like if you're swiggying something, they love how intuitive and well designed that app is, and, like how easy it is to get something done so soon. So again, product based engineering roles, which would involve basic software development as computer web and app development. And even in those major fortes, you have specific niche technologies where you would align yourself with. So that comes second. I would say that you need to first decide which application you would align yourself more with, and which excites you the most, where you want to build stuff the most. And obviously in this also there are a lot of tough fields, there are a lot of tough subfields, there are a lot of easy subfields. I would say that I I come from an easy subfield. But AI and ML work, okay, if you want to stuff like computer vision, which is basically gonna, disrupt the future later, and is
System
still,
engineering, stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah, it's still disrupting it right now, right? So I mean, it really depends upon, and there's always testing based roles as well in software development. So you need to basically figure out where you would fall, what are your best interests, what are your best skills that would align, because some people really rely more on their social skills than on their coding skills, and want something of a, maybe a functional, come techno role as well. So they can also, come to the tech field using a scrum master role, or using some kind of those roles. But you'll still be in tech, you're not going to be as close to tech. But if you want to go to proper software development, then yeah, you have these specific fields, and every field would have their own, level of difficulty, based on, like what stuff you're gonna work. So you would want to decide on that.
That's true.
Once you're decided on,
You
yeah,
know, what you explained is, first of all, choose what you want to do. Like, software engineer is not just one thing, it is basically a gamut of
yep,
things, right? Now
yep,
the thing is what we see, right? So as like a newbie second or third semester student, right, what we see is, we see only one thing, which is lead coding and this coding interviews, quote unquote coding interviews.
hmm.
Like, what's your comment on these coding interviews and lead code things?
So okay, so I'm assuming you're talking from a perspective of a person who is actually doing a computer science engineering
Yes.
course, or a similar course, an IT or a software engineering course,
True.
a
Yes.
BTech course from a college. So if you're already there, so the college assumes that you're going to do coding. You're going to be an SDE. That's what the college is assuming. That's what the college is training you for. Not only that, it gives you a unique flavor of hardware and software as well. You would definitely, like, every BTech course would have hardware courses as well, and software courses as well, spanning on, like, different semesters, and even electives of that sorts. There would be software and hardware as well. So I would say that they definitely are, like, training you to be SDE. And people do try to align themselves with software because like, it's easier, it's a cushy job, okay, you
Right.
don't have to
Yeah.
go anywhere, right? Hardware based role, you actually look for jobs based on where you're coming from, or when you're getting trained for jobs, even for your college, even from your college. So that's the main focus, because there are abundance of jobs out there for this, and there are a plethora of technologies, specifically if you're aligning yourself with web and app development, and you're talking about you're talking about specific things that you want to do, that might be related to developing a product. And yeah, so that's the reason, like, it's basically demand and supply. So there's a lot of demand specifically in these fields.
Yeah.
And even if you see all the startups that are emerging, that are going to pay you high salaries right at the start, because their funding are mostly because they want to make a product out there,
True.
right? And a product is always going to come out, like, a tech based product would always have an app or a web app, a mobile app or a web app. So that's where, again, most of the demand is currently as well. And even you talk about established companies have require the same skill set, and, like, the same experience of that.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, even if you're working for a giant like Amazon, you would be working on a similar product that
True.
is a customer facing.
True.
So you'd either be working with Fire TV Stick, or you would be working with something like that, or maybe if you're lucky, you would work with the main Amazon app, maybe the search and stuff like that. So it's ultimately a product.
That's true.
And that's, I think, I align myself most to that, and I could talk more on that because that's what I've been, and that's what excites me as well. Like,
Real
I'm not,
client-facing applications, right?
yeah,
Yeah, that's
it
true.
feels really powerful to see, like, your code being directly, like, used in basic lives, and not changing lives, but, even the smallest, the nichest feature that you build is even making a tap easier for the user, and even if the user notices. So that, I feel, that gives me the most satisfaction.
That's so well said. That's so well said. I mean, so aligning with what you want to do, that's and you talked a lot about like this startup and this main established big firms or big companies, big MNCs, right? So this has been always a question in me. A lot of these new like you know fear from working in a startup because they think there is a lot of work. There's a lot of misconception regarding working in a startup and working in an MNCs, right? So could you clear out like how does it feel to work in a startup versus an MNC, and what's the cons and pros of working in a startup versus working in an MNC? Like,
Okay, so both have its own pros and cons. Like,
true,
I
yeah.
wouldn't choose one over the other. Okay. Like, my first company was an MNC, and my my the current company that I'm in, and my past company with Jay, was a startup as well.
Yes.
So startups have their own pros. I mean, I would say, if you're with the right team in a startup, okay, like, you need to basically see if you're in the right culture, and if you're with the right team, then startups would definitely boost your career a lot, skill wise. And, you know let's say you get to have ESOPs and the product really booms, so you do have like you can get financially independent way sooner than you
True.
actually think,
True.
right? And for corporates, it's also another different kind of experience. B.Tech, right?
Yeah.
So when I actually got the offer from Verizon, for we were actually given a training as well by IIHT, which is
Okay.
a different entity that Verizon aligned us, Verizon had aligned with,
Okay.
and we were given 3 months of rigorous training on full stack development, a lot of technologies on, multiple front end like React, Angular, and multiple back end technologies as well, and cloud as well. So we were prepared, but then when I actually was mapped to my project, a lot of projects in MNCs, especially like long running MNCs, like MNCs that have been way like basically there since before you were born, right?
Okay.
They have a specific way of working and a specific way of doing things, and they run by those ways as well, and those ways have been iterated and perfected over a lot of years. And there are processes to it, so
True.
it's not going to be like bam 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 your code is out on production. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be months and months and months of maybe rigorous development that would constantly be there out there on client facing,
True.
like acceptance testing environments.
Yeah.
Okay. And they would constantly like nitpick, and like that's what my main project was,
Basically, the
where
quality of the code in an MNC matters way much more. You do not rush the release. You just be with the code for a little long,
and
right?
and might not be the quality of the code, but the quality of the product,
Okay, the
okay, that they're
product
gonna
overall.
put. Yeah, the product overall. Because to be honest, like the team that I was mapped in didn't really focus much on code quality rather than the features that are working and how everything is working seamlessly, right?
Okay.
Without bugs, without issues. And for almost 6 to 7 months, we were pushing out features, but that was visible only to our onshore, like onshore team in the US. It wasn't even visible to the direct business facing users. So they were actually using that product, and they were getting to like get the peers on the business team as well use that product and get an idea, get a flavor of how things would be before they actually push it out as a valid internal product of Verizon, where they can actually take out insights from this raw data. So it was essentially a data visualization project where we were using React and D3JS on the front end with a lot, and there were a lot of other parts to it as well. It was like a huge project. It was like an 80 to 100 people project in
Okay.
which there were different phases, and I was mapped to the main front end part, the direct visualization part, and we used to get cooked data basically from a lot of data. Was essentially the root source of that data would essentially be interactions with customers, support interaction with customers based on how satisfied, how dissatisfied interactions, like basically assimilated over 2 3 layers. That data assimilated over 2 3 layers, then charts being prepared, and then us showing those charts to the business users, and them finally taking out insights from those. And we wanted to bridge the gap as much as they needed, that bridge to be, that gap to be filled. So we were kind of nitpicking from existing data visualization tools as well, like Tableau, Click, and Kairos. So what we were trying to do was this. And if you see, this project is extremely huge, right? You wouldn't uh, generally get to work on something like this. You wouldn't be a small part of a huge thing in a startup.
That's true.
You would be yeah, you would rather be a big thing, a big part of a small thing, okay, in a startup. So the contribution difference would be there. Like, yes, you would be contributing directly, but then again, you're a very small piece of the puzzle, of a huge puzzle,
That's true.
essentially,
Yes.
in projects in MNCs.
So
And
is
this
it
is
being
especially,
okay? So the question is it being a big part of a small thing, um, like more worth it, or more it gives you more knowledge and more educates you, grows you more, or being a small part of a big thing? Like what grows you more, basically, as a software developer?
I mean, I have felt the line you
Okay.
have a lot of control. When you have a lot of control over your, like, this is just my opinion. This is
Sure,
just
sure.
my opinion. Okay,
Yeah.
that might change, and I'm not startups over MNCs in any way, because MNCs have their own flavor of getting to understand. Like, if you're with the right MNC and the right team, to be honest, you get to learn a lot on how things are need to be done in the right way. Okay, which you don't actually experience in startups, because startups mostly are focused on getting the output, um, however the way you actually chart yourself with.
Sure.
Uh, with startups, I feel that you get to learn more, because you have a lot of control over your work, over your code. You do mistakes a lot in a startup, but again, if you're with the right team and the right culture, those mistakes are welcomed. They are, like, they're taken positively, and you are supposed to learn from it, and like, move on and basically not repeat that. But in an MNC, it's different, because there are already so many checks in place. It's extremely unlikely for you to do a mistake on production, right?
Sure.
And even if you do, it's not that a big deal either way. But again, that depends upon the right culture and the right team where you're aligning yourself with. But I do feel that you learn a lot in startups, because again, the work pressure would definitely be
Yeah.
different. you
Yes.
you the work pressure is would be like, Verizon, if you see, even on Glassdoor, or even if you actually interact with other people, I was in a company where work life balance is considered an extreme priority. And in fact, people don't want to move from that company because they have families, and because this company is providing them with that, with the perfect thing. So even if you're getting a low salary, or you're getting all of this, or yeah, or you're getting other benefits, so this is basically compensating for everything. They're fine with it, because if you jump out and if you look for another place, so then that's gonna drill you down hard, and then you have to establish yourself and prove your worth there as well. So again, I was in a place where um, that was extremely taken as a priority, so I never ever felt any pressure. In fact, for the first three, like, after the 3 months of our training, for the first 3 months of the initial project that I was mapped on, I did extremely less work, and I myself was not satisfied.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. I came from a place where I didn't really do much in BTech, so I really wanted to do a lot in like in my company or in my project. But I was mapped to a project where I couldn't have that impact. And but then again, I actually spoke to my manager, then he like remapped me to a lot of different projects, got me work, and then I actually got to learn the work.
That's awesome.
So
So I think
yeah.
so as per your explanation, like you get to first thing, you get kind of less work, like, but you have to deliver it like in a more, I'll say, a quality work, and you get time. You have a better work-life balance in a MNC, right? As compared to a startup. Startup, they have to build this go and they have to do the GTM as fast as possible. They have to reach the market, target the. So
Yep.
for let's say a newcomer as a first job, right? What would you prefer? And MNC would be a good approach to learn more things, or a startup? Like, which way is good?
So if this field is extremely new to you,
Yeah.
and this is like the first time you're experiencing computer science, I would say try it safe. Go to an MNC first, because
That's correct. Yeah.
it won't be that too overwhelming for you, because startups will bombard you with deadlines and will bombard you with, like, with a lot of high intensity work,
Yeah.
which would kind of, maybe if it goes the negative way, it might derail your interest from it, when it essentially isn't that way. So because I actually liked my approach, because I feel those 2 years, even though they were a little slow at the start, but those 2 years in Verizon kind of prepared me, because since I had not done much coding in my BTech, they
Yeah.
kind of prepared me of what exactly the work's going to be, how software development is, and how essentially things work. And when I came to a startup, even though like, I did feel that difference, the
Yeah.
first 2 weeks, sharing a screen, pair programming, 10
Correct.
engineers shouting, "What are you doing?"
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. We have been in that
Okay.
place. Yeah.
Yeah. So that thing was extremely overwhelming for me at the start, but then
Correct.
you get to learn it. And I feel that, if I would have joined a startup first, I would have kind of felt a bit more overwhelmed. It would have been
Yeah.
more challenging essentially for me to, set myself through. And especially for people who, like, who are not from this field and who don't get CS easy. I'm not talking about people who have already 4-star, 5-star on the lead code and hacker rank. I think you guys are already there.
Yeah.
You guys can take whatever path you feel like is good. But for people who are relatively new and are still struggling, and still want to establish themselves, start with an MNC, and you yourself can, control then how much work you want. If you feel that much is fine, then you can learn at your own pace. Or if you feel that is slow, then just trouble your manager. Just say, I want more work. I want to,
That
because that's what I did in Verizon. Yeah.
So I think this conversation so far is going amazing, right? And I think this was part one of this conversation we'll be having. I'm pretty sure all of you guys watching is is loving this conversation, and you would like a part two, right? So this was the this was the end of part one, but we'll be having a part two of this series, which you can see link in the description or somewhere a card over here. As excited as me for this thing, just go and watch the part two. Thank you. Have a really great day ahead. And I wish, if you're not a software developer, just you will be a very successful one really soon. And if you are, congratulations. Thank you. Bye bye. Have a really great day.